Thank you, that's carried. So we're going to move in camera. Okay, and welcome back to the budget committee, pre-budget budget committee meeting for October 28th. It's 11:15. We're resuming our open session. And so we're moving on to item 6.1 in the agenda, which is page 141. And this is an update on projects deferred to 2026 from the 2025 budget process. And I don't know if CAO wanted to provide a high-level overview.
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit of addition. This is really projects that came out of last year that were deferred for presentation for 2026. There wasn't any subsequent information as far as subsequent information that directors wanted to have as part of 2026. And so it's really to seek direction as to whether or not these come forward as budget proposals, if directors would like to have more information. Staff have made some recommendation in alignment with your corporate work plan and capacity and emerging items. And so if there's any questions, staff are here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just from a process perspective, for anybody following along, directors, I think what we'll do is we'll look at the list that's sort of within page 141 here in the recommendations. And if there's any that directors want to pull for separate discussion or consideration, we can do that. And then maybe we can move the remainder and then make recommendations on the ones that we've pulled. So, Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draft 3-year plan on page 146. I think that's really helpful. Like, I like to see, you know, ahead where we may be going with some of these rather than just deferring them one-off basis year by year. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much. Good, great, let's do more of this.
All right, thank you, Director McMahon. Director Stamford, and then Director Lee.
I would like to have further discussion about West Beach Park erosion mitigation planning.
Okay, thank you, Director Stamford. Director Lee, and then Director Gavious.
I'd like to talk about some of the, what I call the minor parks issues that we don't seem to get done. We keep putting them off, looking for a new plan. I don't think that's appropriate, so I'd like to talk further about those ones. Specifically, the bridge replacements for Vinebrook, Kleindale Co-op, Catherine Lake, and Dan Bosch Park. And the fact that somehow we all of a sudden have a parks major project plan, which looks a whole lot to me like a parks management plan, which we haven't reviewed, we haven't discussed, we haven't agreed on, and yet we're making conclusions based on something we haven't seen. So I think it's too early.
Sorry, just seeking clarity on the last part of what you were saying there. Parks major projects plan?
Yeah, on page 146, we talk about Parks Major Projects Draft 3-Year Plan, 1927, or 2027, 28, and 29.
Right.
Page 146.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to, from the staff table about the way the 3-year plan sort of came into being, recognizing that GM Gagnon is not here with us today. CAO?
Yeah, I think this is based on some criteria that we don't have here. Some are based on past direction, based on, you know, things that are already in progress, because we already have certain components or phases of these particular projects, and some may not be in different phases of projects. This may also be in an alignment with our asset management planning to say what's, you know, scheduled to be done. Some of these are reactionary, meaning climate change has impacted the service level. So you also have your service review, and this would be probably akin to your corporate work plan and such, that the board can prioritize where these come in, and essentially, that's perhaps what I'm hearing is, when will we have the discussion about where these sit in the priority list, and to get more context as to maybe the rationale as to why they're sitting on these particular years. I'd also be interested to understand how the Park Service review would integrate into this. And so, yeah, without the GM, I think that's something we'd have to have at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a follow-up at the moment, Director Lee, or keep?
I think we need to figure out how to be creative and get some of these things done, because I've had projects that have been since 2019, and every year they get pushed out. And I've had promises that the Pine Brook Bridge was going to be replaced in 2026, and have made that statement to my taxpayers, only to find now that, no, fooled you, not going to happen.
Right.
We need to do something different, in my opinion here.
Thank you.
So we need to have a discussion about how to get these done, not
Okay.
let's vote to defer them.
Okay, Director McMahon.
Yeah, and this is for the parking lot. I appreciate that Chester Park and Chester House Sustainability Planning and Ocean Beach Esplanade Sustainability Planner there for 2027. These are going to be very difficult, very complicated, very expensive projects that involve multiple agencies. And I mean, they're urgent. Look at the shoreline coastal flooding report. This is, it is a high priority, but it's going to be really difficult. And I think we need to look to the province for some leadership on this. And leadership and some funding, because I can't see this being easy. And to ask our Parks Department to stick handle this is asking a lot. So if we can park that for future discussion, I would appreciate looking into it a little further. But for right now, I'm fine with deferring those.
Thank you. Any other comments from directors? Okay. Director Gabius, did you have anything? No? Okay. So at the moment, I see bridge replacements, Catherine Lake and Dan Bosch Park Management Plans, and West Beach Park Erosion Mitigation. Director Gabius, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And, GM Gagnon is not here, so this might not be answered. But the beach access at Minty Road, the status quo right now is working, and I'm okay with deferring that if we're keeping the status quo. I'm understanding correctly that the status quo remains until, and I'm not sure what that project will be, but as long as the status quo remains, then that's good. Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay. In that case, there are recommendations on page 141. Directors, any desire to move recommendations, recognizing we want to have further conversation about the bridge replacements, Catherine Lake and Dan Bosch Park, and West Beach Park. Director McMahon, I saw your hand.
Sure, I'll move that.
You'll move the recommendations other than those
Other than
three
the
items.
three that were pulled, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Director Bax?
I just said there's 5 items in a second.
There's 5 items that are remaining on the list. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I will call the question on those recommendations. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Now, regarding the 3 that remain, Director Lee, did you want to talk about bridge replacements or make a motion to refer the item to round 2? with an update on how the project might be accomplished in 2026? Okay. I saw a head nod from the CAO, so I think the wording is sufficient to meet the criteria. You're making that motion. It is park service, so it's park service, right? Yeah, so I'll look for a seconder from the rural areas. Thank you, Director Bax. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Catherine Lake and Dan Bosch Park Management Plans. Director Lee.
Oh, I thought we were doing all of those ones that we pulled with the same motion.
Oh, I wanted to touch them one by one because two are in your area and one is Director Stanford's, so,
So which one did we do first?
bridge replacements.
Okay,
So now we're on Catherine Lake and Dan Bosch Park.
okay,
So motion to refer them to round two for
yes, same motion.
proposal on how to accomplish?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, I've got a seconder. Any discussion on that motion? If not, rural directors, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And West Beach Park Erosion Mitigation Planning, Director Stanford.
Thank you. I move that the Parks Project West Beach Park Erosion Mitigation Planning be moved to round two for further consideration with staff details.
Okay, thank you, and I've got a seconder for that. Any discussion on that one? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor, rural directors? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Thank you. I think that took care of the items in 6.1. And so we're moving on to item 6.2. Does anybody need a 3-minute break to refill their coffees or bio or anything like that? You guys are good to keep going? Director Lee?
I was just looking for clarification on item number 3, if I could. I know we passed it already, but is that be abandoned? I wasn't aware.
Sorry, you're looking at recommendation 3 on page 141?
Yeah,
Okay, that's the Curran Road wastewater treatment plant modifications be abandoned. GM Rosenboom?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. As indicated in the report, there is currently a proponent of a proposed subdivision that is considering what is required, assessing what is required on the plant with respect to the plant in terms of expansion, and they are considering to do the work that was proposed by us as part of this project, as part of that subdivision work.
So this is actually a good news story where,
yeah, that's good news. I'm sorry I missed that line. It was just came as a surprise to me, so.
all right, thank you, and thank you, GM Rosenboom. Okay, so we're gonna move on to item 6.2, page 149. I'm proposing that we go through the document starting on page 152, one page at a time, and see if there are any projects that directors want to defer or abandon. And then we'll make motions about those ones that we ask to defer or abandon after. Now, there is a recommendation on page 149, recommendation number 1. I don't know if anybody from staff wants to speak to that particular item because it is listed as a mandatory project. CAO?
Yeah, this year we have taken the same approach as we have been classifying projects in the corporate work plan, in that mandatories are capital R regulatory. And so this is one where there is a regulatory requirement. There's impacts for us not doing this from fines, et cetera. And so that's why this one is the only one that's being considered to be included into the budget for this year.
Thank you. So before we move into the document, are there any general questions about the report or the first recommendation? Director Stamford?
Yes, I have a sort of clarification around this mandatory. I recognize that it's for regulatory process, but I noticed there are a number of mandatory projects that we have set aside budgets for, but they've been sitting on the books for several years. Is the idea that it's okay as long as we're intending to do them? That's, is that how we get around that delay for some of those projects?
Thank you. CAO?
This is a case of transitioning between prior way of classifying projects in such where we had, safety, imminent asset failure would be the area where we're seeing the most delay in projects. Regulatory, where you typically have a deadline, you need to do something by a certain date and or won't get significant sign off. So it's an area we probably need to review as far as where those sit and what the implications of, further delay or reorganizing what they are from a priority perspective. As I understand, this was highlighted yesterday as well. So that would be a case of having some reporting back as to what implications there are about moving those into different types of criteria to build more capacity for others is, I think, what is being contemplated.
Thank you. And just for my own information, and I apologize if it's in the report, I did not see it. What is function 613?
So that's more of an internal cost center, so I apologize. Community recreation is the service. We just internally have separated that from, programming side and facility management. And so it really is all community recreation.
Okay, thank you for that. Directors, any questions? Director Lee?
Yes, it mentions base budget lift. Is that, could that be either permanent expense increase or temporary staff increase, or what exactly falls under base budget lift?
So you're asking about the verbiage that's been used with like recommendation 2 and then,
Yeah, I'm assuming that if it's a base budget lift, there's comments. There's writing in the comments explaining it. But if that's the case, what the heck's the other ones? So,
thank you.
Base budget lifts are permanent in nature. They aren't temporary. A temporary would be a different type of proposal, like a time-stamped one. Base budget is essentially saying that within the existing expense envelope, we're seeing cost pressures outside of our ability to sustain them. There are several functions that, like we don't apply an overall increase to all services. That is a policy, that's a method that some local governments apply. But we don't do that just because we monitor specific areas. Say utilities are increasing. There's some, we've done budget proposals that are corporate in nature, but we don't apply a universal. And so that's why we have specific base budgets for just specific services, and it is permanent in nature.
Okay, thank you. Directors, any other general questions or discussion or questions around recommendation 1 specifically? If I don't see any hands, would somebody like to move recommendation 1?
I shall move recommendation 1.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Director Gabius. Any further discussion on recommendation 1 specifically? If not, recreation, but it's a cost center, this is voting all, I assume? Okay. Then
All
I'll
except A.
Except A. Okay, sorry, Director Lee. Then I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. Okay. Now, I'm hoping we can move into the spreadsheet. And so we're looking, starting on page 152. I'm gonna go one page at a time. I will ask directors if there's any that they want to pull to make a different motion on, or a different recommendation. And then when we get to the end, we will make a recommendation to move the remainder to round 1. or move through the budget process. Director McMahon.
I have quite a few questions about quite a few of these, but I don't want to start pulling all of them. Can we just ask questions and page by
Sure.
page, and then maybe move the page?
Sure, recognizing that we're going to be getting budget proposals down the road, so this is to stay at the like 30,000 foot plus mark, as best as we can.
Well, just also thinking though that it saves staff time and effort. If we're not going to support something now, why do a budget proposal?
Exactly. Yep. So go ahead, Director McMahon.
Yeah, okay. Item number 1, right out of the gate. I mean, I completely see why we are going to need a water meter maintenance operator. Do we need it this year?
Thank you. Or what might be the implications of deferring it? GM Rosenboom.
Thank you. This position is currently proposed to be hired mid-year to allow for the person to support with all the getting our systems ready for the implementation of the regional water system as of January 1st year 2027. As discussed as the prior regional water, as prior committee meeting, there are a lot of meters within the regional water system that are currently not conforming or don't have a meter or don't have a functioning meter. So this position would allow, hiring this position mid-2026 would allow this position to support that, as well as to support the actual making sure that the water meters within the PIN areas are working as they should to support the volumetric billing.
Okay. Director Lee.
Didn't get very far. My question's on number 2. I didn't have time to check, but I believe we already have a steel reservoir maintenance item on the books. So perhaps this is an increase. My question is this part of the other project, or is this a new one?
Thank you for the question, Chair. What is on the books is the repair of 2 of our concrete reservoirs. They are currently leaking, and we're trying to address them. And that's the one in Front Pen, and the other one is our Selma 2 reservoir. These 2 reservoirs are 2 of our main steel reservoirs that are having signs of a lot of rust, which, if not addressed, could cause them to fill over time. Thank you.
Follow up?
No, I'm happy now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alternate Director DeAndrade, and then Director McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. It's just gathering more information. 4th and 5th, the fleet resource, we're asking for a new position. My question is this something temporary for a specific time, or, yeah, and the next question as well regards the number 5, which, so we also hoping to hire more, for more position. So, and I asked this question yesterday, if this would save some money in consultants.
Thank you. CAO, are you?
There are multiple ways for us to deliver this, and so part of the budget proposals will have some options associated with them. As far as the cost savings go, not immediate. I think one of the concepts of transitioning to a pooled fleet will take some time, and so we'd need to do an analysis of when we can see realizing some of the gains, and we'd have to implement additional items in order to realize some of those financial gains. And I think the recognition is that existing capacity would be challenged to implement those in a timely way. And so as you've just presented, or we've just presented the fleet, it's really here some resourcing to implement those. And so that'll be the business decision at round one.
Thank you. Director McMahon and then Director Bax.
Yeah, I just had a couple, 3 and 6, but 3, I note that the service truck is 30 years old, so I'm going to be really hard on fleet this budget, but a 30-year-old vehicle doesn't owe us much. And if we deny some other fleet requests, we're going to need it to pick up the ones that break down. And number 6, the fire hose. I can't think of anything more basic that a fire department needs than a fire hose. Should that not be part of regular equipment replacement? Are we moving forward so that we don't get these little budget requests for stuff that's absolutely critical?
It's something we're trying to evolve because it's outside of the capital plan. And so that's part of the consideration of how do we remedy these types of things that are, material in nature, but maybe the base budget can't sustain it, but it seems like it should be. So again, that would be a review of what the funding envelope should be. And that's part of the discussion I know that asset management is having with the services.
Thank you. Director Bax.
Yeah, it's mostly a question about the spreadsheet itself and how some of it is put together. So an example, in number 1, the estimated staff hours are 100, and it's a prorated 0.5 FTE for 2026. Now and so when you go down to number 4, it's another prorated 0.5 FTE, but it represents 0 hours of staff time. Now, my question is, this 100 hours, is that an onboarding commitment from other staff to train the newly arriving staff, or is that where does that 100 hours come from?
GM Rosenboom.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's indeed for creating a new job description, hiring and training and onboarding of the staff member.
No other questions on this page.
Okay. Director Gabius.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was a bit reluctant to add more FTEs. So I'm wondering, at number 1, how is this currently a problem, or is this something that staff has to scramble to get out and fix, and is that affecting the work plan in a big way? Like, I'm trying to get a better. I appreciate that staff is trying to be proactive. Like, this is something that's gonna, there's something down the line that we're gonna have to address. But like, how important is it right now? Or is this something that next year could be a better start for it, or a potential start for it?
I think part of that is going to be up to us. Could next year be a better start for it? I think that'll be up to us to decide. I don't know if GM Rosenboom has anything to add in terms of how the work is being done now for any meters that need to be maintained or repaired, while staff are also working with the contractor to finish the meter install project. And then sort of to tag in a subsequent question, do we expect the conclusion of the meter install project to free up any staff capacity that could be working on this?
Thank you for the question. Based on our experience in North and South Bender, addressing all the non-functioning or all not adequately non-conforming installations will take quite some time, because each circumstance is unique, And given the amount that's currently identified within the regional water system, that will take a substantial amount of time. Yes, there will be time freed up as a result of the installation of the water metering project to be completed by the end of the year. But that project is currently also resulting in other projects to be delayed. So it will have a work plan implication. If this project is not approved, can we handle it? Other project might be delayed as a result of it. Or regular maintenance and operations of the system is not occurring.
Okay, thank you. Director Gabius, did you have more?
I have a question. When we're talking about project being delayed, we're not talking about volumetric billing implementation. Like how would this impact volumetric billing? Would there be any negative impact on starting and maintaining volumetric billing?
Thank you for the question. Given the priority that volumetric billing is for the organization, we would reprioritize other work such that volumetric billing would not be impacted. But so other projects might be delayed as a result. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Directors, any other discussion, comments, questions, recommendations around page 1? Director Lee?
It's back to I'm easily confused, so I'm looking for a clarification here. We had a corporate work plan that had a whole bunch of projects listed on it. And at the end of the corporate work plan, we had yellow ones that were proposed but below the line. And now we got this, and there's projects that aren't on those earlier lists, as near as I can tell.
Because the earlier list was projects, whereas this list is everything. Fire hose is not going to be on that other list
That's right, yeah.
because it's just an operational item
But
that
it's a mix of both, though.
this list, yes, is projects and operational items. Budget lift is not going to be on the organizational priorities chart.
So this list exists because it's having a permanent effect on our budgets rather than an individual project that starts and stops and finishes. I'm confused.
This list is the proposals that staff are bringing forward for 2026 in their entire, but this is just the first, this is the early introduction. You know, there are no budget proposals attached to this right now because those will come at round 1. This is just the first introduction of the proposals that staff are looking to bring forward for 2026. Yeah, I don't know if CAO wants to help with
Yeah,
clarity.
that's correct. And
Your microphone's off.
yes, that's correct. And this is where there's, I think, only one time, and I think in the last 2 terms, that we've not done pre-budget. And so essentially, the purpose of today's meeting is really to give you a high-level overview of what the proposals for next year are, projects and financial lifts, and that's how these have been separated. So the first 5 pages are essentially project lifts that have associated capacity requirements that would typically go into your corporate work plan, of which is a new tool for this year for you to understand what the resourcing implications to the staffing is, with the caveat that some of these projects have new staffing requirements, so it'll build some of the capacity, so it's iterative. The second attachment, attachment B, is really just financial lifts. It's like sundry purchases, base budget items, and so those would not be reflected in your corporate work plan. So really the purpose of today is like an exception. Like, which ones do you feel really you don't want to see move moving forward. They could be types of budget proposals that you don't want to see. It could be essentially aligned with resourcing capacity. I've also heard that you're contemplating what's already being brought forward into the work plan, and that's part of the acknowledgement when we started corporate work planning, is that some of these are multi-year projects. We already have in some divisions probably multi-year work plans already, and so adding things new to the bottom line is going to continue to stress the system. And we also don't want to raise funds or tax funds or put money away prematurely because time value of money and whatnot is also impacting our projects. So those are some of the elements that have been discussed in the past. And so really today is really to contemplate that. And if there's information here that you don't have in order to facilitate that decision, that's what the direction back to staff is to provide you between now and right through to round 2.
And any of the projects that we do approve, we will then need to find a way to work into the corporate work plan and where they fall at a later date, probably March or April. So,
It could be iterative. It could be as early as round 2. And the reason why is you want to make sure you're not putting forward things that you can see very clearly that will likely not get done. And that would be my recommendation. As part of this process, we will continue to update the corporate work plan. This is a very high-level draft. So the corporate work plan will be presented. The concept of how you prioritize will also have further impact. And if you choose to do that after the budget or before the budget gets adopted is up to you.
I worry about further confusing the new projects that are being proposed with the existing work plan. But that's just my own perspectives. Director Lee.
I'm actually the other way around. When we were looking at the corporate work plan and I saw all the new yellow ones at the end, I was contemplating whether we needed to hire some more people and get them above the line or move some stuff that's above the line down, because they all affect resourcing, right? So, for instance, I would see the steel reservoir maintenance now being contemplated on the corporate work plan to go above the line for 2026. And so I was looking at the ones that we already knew about to see if they were yellow below the line and needed more resourcing, and they weren't. And that's what prompted my question. Therefore, I'm assuming some of these are going to be put below that line and say, hey, you guys, do you want to move something up or get more people, or what the heck do you want to do to get it done? Simplistic view of it, but we got to be doing that or else we're wasting our time here. I think the CAO just said that that's what we're doing, though.
Okay.
Could we ask her if I was close?
CAO, did you?
I think partially. And I think that's what the senior leadership as part of the lead up to this is that just saying that we'll just throw more staff at it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, because in some instances we have increased our staffing complement quite significantly. And the correlation between a 1-to-1, meaning you're going to build more capacity, there are some variables to that, meaning we have vacancies that are causing issues. We, it's not just as simple, just throw more resources to it, because all of the support systems too need to ensure. And so it's not just throwing one resource in parks or utilities, it's making sure that we have all the support systems within, procurement and other particular entity. So it's not just as simple as that. And so what we're trying to put in front of you today is our an alignment with sustainable service delivery with projects that the board has expressed they'd like to see. So with trying to manage the existing capacity. We don't have it correct here, and we still have a lot of projects that linger out there that aren't still being addressed, but that's just part of your I think as a regional district, we're struggling with how we maintain our service levels. And, not without getting too far into the weeds of a philosophical question is you're trying to address your basic service needs with your discretionary service needs. And so that's also part of the contemplation here. And so that's part of the tool of the corporate work plan is to try to articulate that from a high level based on the board's strategic plan and what the priorities of the board is. So if there needs to be some iterative process to this through this process that we're not contemplating right now, today is the time to signal that and to see how we can manage that. If there are things here that really are straight off things that the board doesn't want to see important in going forward, or at least you want to see more details associated with it, that's really the purpose of today.
But that this will not replace receiving budget proposals at round one and round two. It's just to help inform those budget proposals if there's specific information that the board wants to see.
Yes, and if you don't want to see one, please signal that now, because to the earlier point, we don't want to go to a whole bunch of work in proposing something that really the board doesn't want to see.
Okay. Director Bax.
Yeah, we're on page 153.
152.
152 still. We haven't finished that one. All right. Well, but one of the another general question for the whole spreadsheet is that in yesterday's deliberations, I saw that there was a 2.2 FTE increase in the corporate work plan that we're looking for 2026. But this particular document shows much more than 2.2 FTE increase, and I haven't gone through it to add them up to see what they are. I wonder if there is, in previous budgets, we've seen that number. Like what's the new FTE ask associated with this list of
Thank you, Director Bax. I'll look to the CAO to see if it's been tallied or what proportion of these, because some of these are identified as continuations, I believe. So they're not all new.
And if I don't get the answer today, that's fine. I just want to make sure that staff understands that this is something that I believe the board is very interested in seeing.
Okay, thank you, Director Bax. Alternate Director De Andrade, Director Lee, Director McMahon.
Thank you. It's just a confirmation, I guess, for the Gibsons and District Fire Department. If the Gibson share is, I know it's around 50%, is it 49.5? Yeah. It is?
Something, yeah, it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so based on 2025, it was just under 50%.
Thank you.
Director Lee.
I'm looking at number 4, moving right along. I was, when I got the corporate fleet strategy and I was looking at it, it was suggested that this job was already being done but spread throughout the company. If we add one position, we must be freeing up one position somewhere else in the company. Conversely, we could reassign and get this done without adding any more staff. Are we committing to something here if we asked for the, I guess what we would be doing is asking for that question to be answered in round 2, probably, if we leave it on here. Would you think that that's a correct thought?
I think that that is a fair question to be asked about what internal savings there might be if this moves along. I don't know if CAO has any comment on that at this time.
Well, I know the question, Chair, has been asked already, and I think it was more from a, are we going to be saving consultants? That would be an alternative way to deliver this particular service that we don't right now. I would say that right now we're delivering the service operationally, and so from a savings internally, I don't, my understanding is there's not a saving from reassigning staff. Staff are just simply don't have the capacity to do this. That's hence the proposal. So again, this informs the budget proposal, this discussion as to what you'd like to see if you'd like to see it at round one.
Okay. Thank you. Director McMahon.
Yeah, general question. For instance, in item 3, these ones with fleet, the column there, the source column shows MFA loan, but that's how we're paying for it. It's not who's paying for it. So which department pays for each of these? It's not so much the first one. That one's probably charging back to other departments, but I have that question about a bunch of the other ones. Is it just says MFA loan, it doesn't tell me who's paying for it.
The right-hand column next to the comments does include the function numbers. And I think 312 is an internal recovery function, so that's apportioned out to 6 or 10 different other functions. Yeah. Okay. Directors, any recommendations on anything from this page? Anything that anybody wants to defer? Otherwise, these items would all come forward as budget proposals in round one. I'm gonna take a stab at a recommendation because I'm interested in deferring item number 1 for 1 year because I want to see how the completion of the meter installs frees up some staff time to maybe work on some of these issues. Because we know that our staff are working fairly closely with the contractor on a lot of these technical installs that are still remaining. And so I would move that item number 1 be deferred to 2027. And I've got a seconder for that. Now, is there any discussion on that? Director Bax and then Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what our GM of Infrastructure Services has to say about that.
Well, he already expressed what the position would be doing.
Okay,
And so there's a motion on the floor which leaves it as a political discussion and debate. We don't debate with staff.
got you. No problem. Okay, I'm fine.
Director McMahon?
Yeah, I'm not ready to defer this yet until I see the big picture for staffing. Because as we can tell from our spreadsheets, the infrastructure department is where a lot of the projects are hung up. And that might be a higher priority than some other departments. So I'm not ready to support you at this time.
Totally fair. Just thought I would lead by, an example for folks. So I don't see any other hands up, so I will call the question on this. All those in favor? And those opposed? And that is defeated. Okay, thank you. Directors, is there anything further on page 152? If not, now that I think we might maybe have a rhythm, we can move on to page 153. Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'm looking at these vehicle replacements. For instance, line 20, a 2020 truck is a total loss due to a vehicle incident. Is that covered by insurance? And if it's not covered by insurance, why not?
Is it covered by insurance? And if not, is that something we can discuss in an open meeting? CAO?
Yeah, thank you. So from time to time, we do have accidents with our vehicles. It's quite common. This particular one was covered by insurance, and it was decided not to replace the vehicle, or the vehicle replacement wasn't sufficient. It would have meant a budget or a financial plan amendment, so we are bringing it here to budget. The coverage also wasn't sufficient in order to fully cover the cost of the car, so when we did get a claim, it was put back into reserves. And so essentially we could review how the funding could be apportioned, so we can provide more information at round one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, directors, on page 153? Director Stanford.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at line 16, a staffing lift for development planner. Recognizing DAPR is a different project from our OCP, but further down the line, we are looking at OCP staffing lifts, and I'm wondering, do they need to be concurrent? And I'm not necessarily saying one or the other is pulled, but I'd need more information to understand how they work together and whether there would be a rationale for moving development planner 2 to 2027.
CAO.
That, Chair, would be a very good supplement to the budget proposal, even from a staff report, to articulate the difference. So that would be my suggestion.
To bring forward, that staff bring forward a supplemental report outlining DAPR versus OCP updates and how.
And whether they need to be concurrent or could be sequential. Do you need a
Okay.
specific motion or?
I believe that wording is our motion. Hearing the recorder cleaning that up a bit. So you're moving that. Do I have a seconder for that from rural planning? Thank you, Director McMahon. Any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call the question rural planning. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Director Bax.
Yes, thank you. Looking at line 23 on this page, the Seashell Hospital Well Development. The CAO said something earlier about us looking at these as projects that we think we can get to in 2026. Now, my question is although this is it could be an important addition to our water system, is it a project that we will be able to get to in 2026? Or should we defer this to 2027? That's my question.
Thank you, Director. GM Rosenboom.
Thank you for the question. The answer to that question totally depends on other projects that might be approved. And there are still a lot of projects that are nearing completion this year. So as the corporate work plan for next year is developed over the next and is finalized over the next several months, we might have a better spot of where this sits. And ultimately, it's still, there's board discretion if they want to prioritize this or not.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'll speak to that too. I'd like to see the budget proposal come forward because sooner or later we're going to do it. We may end up deferring it, as you said. Is there any possibility for a cost share with Vancouver Coastal Health? Just thought I'd ask, since they have so much money.
Thank you for the question. GM Rosenboom.
Thank you. We're still with the project, and even with the additional funding, we're still in the feasibility stage, confirming if it's a feasible well site for a large production capacity. So to date, we have not been able to have that successful conversation with VCH, but I can totally see that if we move to the development phase, that there are definitely cost-sharing opportunities.
Thank you. And Director Inkster. Oh, was that a follow-up, Director McMahon? Okay, Director Inkster.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I always, as always, I want to see the monetary implications of us making decisions going forward. Although to channel Director Lee, we always need redundancies. So I'd like to see some wells, and I do look forward to the answer from Vancouver Coastal on whether they will share in some funding. I think that anybody that's gone near the hospital in the last little while and does know that they put 2 large water storage devices on the hillside. So that's obviously a sign. Now, whether that's for the garden thing, I don't think so. I thought it was the hospital based on where it was located. It's for the garden? Oh, interesting. I thought we talked about that. It was the hospital. Okay.
My understanding is the hospital actually deferred their water storage project pending the outcome of the well.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
another reason why they should be sharing in funding. Thanks for that. Because if you're going to build water storage devices and you're not going to because there's a well, there should be probably an expectation of you contributing to not having to build the water storage devices.
The good news is that that was a cost share project with Regional Hospital District, so we don't have to cough up money to pay ourselves.
Well, on which one exactly? What are you talking about?
The water supply project at the hospital was proposed to be a cost share with the Regional Hospital
okay,
District.
so the project.
Yeah.
Okay, but well, once again, there should be an opportunity for them to fund it, although if they turn it back to the taxpayers as part of a hospital, the local hospital funding, we have to pay for it just through a different tax method. But anyway, I look forward to that discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Director McMahon?
Yeah, this is a general comment. The budget proposals, for sort of obvious reasons, come by department. When it comes to the FTEs, we generally get a roll-up that shows all the FTEs in one place. I'm wondering if we could do the same thing for fleet, because now that we're looking at a fleet strategy, I'd kind of like to be able to get all if it's not a huge amount of work, but I'd like to see how many vehicles we're adding. And especially also in context of potentially putting in a fleet coordinator. I think we need to know this, like what's happening in what order.
And just to clarify, Director McMahon, when you talk about a roll-up like we do with the FTEs, you're not talking about fleet FTEs, you're actually talking about fleet vehicles.
Vehicles.
Thank you.
Yeah. Could we at some point just see all the vehicles in one place so that we see how many vehicles we're adding? Because otherwise they're scattered all the way through the process, and it's slightly.
And how many of them are replacements versus additionals, I think is the core, because I think the fleet strategy had that list in it. Like, I think it actually identified the fleet unit numbers in there. So I guess, yeah, from that perspective, the supplemental information would be what vehicles are we replacing, what vehicles are we adding, I think is what Director McMahon's maybe looking for. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. Directors, any other comments? Yeah, Director McMahon.
Right out of the gate, item 22, I will not be supporting another 2 weeks of ice at GAC or the arena, but particularly not at the arena. So just warning, we've got so many other expenses, I can't see it.
Okay, thank you. I don't need to know necessarily how folks are going to vote as we get to round 1 or round 2, but Director Lee? We are currently on page 153.
I just wanted to say, back in item number 3, that truck was built in 1995. We should be able to get some antique plates for it and get a reused plates.
Director Lee, I don't think your microphone was on, but you're right. That is definitely approaching antique category for a vehicle. So anything further on page 153? If not, we'll move on to page 154. Directors, anything on page 154 that we want to ask questions about or defer or abandon or further information? Giving everybody lots of time because I don't want to be accused of rushing anything. I don't see any hands up. Going once, going twice, and of course, if, something comes to you, we can always come back, so. All right, we're gonna move on to page 155, which is items 38 through 51. Director Bax.
I want to draw attention to item 50. I would propose that we defer it. It's the decommissioning of this Grantham's Well pump station doesn't seem like a huge priority. I imagine any kind of any useful equipment or other such things that are within the facility has been or could be removed. And then the shell let's just stick around for another year. Exactly. So it's not I don't think it is a priority. And so then the capital reserves that are earmarked for it could be used elsewhere. So I propose that we defer this to, the decision on this to at least another year, 2027.
Did you want to make that as a motion, Director Bax?
That's the motion I'm making, yes.
Okay, do I have a seconder? I do have a seconder. I am supportive of delaying some of these sort of items after I understand what the risk might be. And so I don't know if GM Rosenboom has any comments right now on the risk of not trying to decommission the Grantham's Well pump station in 2026 versus doing it in 2027.
Thank you. There is no, some of you might have seen the site where it is actually located. It's at the bottom of the bank below Grantham's Hole. It's in the floodplain several years ago. We had a big storm event and we had to support the foundation because it was washing away. That's a risk that is there. If we delay it for another year, that it will decommission itself. But that's a risk that is already existing for several years now because since commissioning of Church Road, it hasn't been used. And all the equipment are still inside. And part of this project would also decommission all the pumps that are currently inside the building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alternate Director DeAndrade. And then Director McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just seeking clarification on item 41.
Sorry, just as I do have a motion on the floor to defer the decommissioning of the Grantham's pump station. So, Director McMahon, was that about this?
I'm dilemmaed here because sooner or later we are going to have to do it. So we could take it as a budget proposal and then defer it. So either way. All right.
Thank you. Any other speakers to the motion? Director Lee, I see you, and we will add you to the list after we deal with the motion. In which case I will call the question. All those in favor of deferring this particular project? And any opposed? Director Lee is opposed. Motion's carried. Okay, now I'm going to go to Director Gabius, alternate Director DeAndrade, and then Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to speak to item 51 at the very bottom of the page. So I think the board has made it clear that we want to help farmers. We want the coast to produce more of its own food, become less dependent on the mainland, et cetera. But I'm seeing the number of hours there, 550 hours of staff time. I don't know how this was calculated, but it's a lot. And I'm wondering if we could take a different approach as we've directed staff to be in touch with the Farmers Institute to develop a proposal. Could we set a number of hours that, CCO, I'm going to just stop here.
Perfect. I'll go to the CAO.
So was it last week a subsequent motion was made in order for us to review the budget proposal in collaboration with the farmers. So that particular motion, yeah, it doesn't supersede, but it essentially, this particular agenda went out before that. So that's already in motion. And so we're just taking like for like from last year's proposal, and now we're exploring what could be a different, or some options related to what they put forward and what we put forward, and come to some options for the board for consideration.
Alternate Director D'Andrade.
Thank you. It's just a clarification on item 41 regarding the expansion. And I just don't understand, because it's here as taxation, but my understanding it was a contribution, a private contribution from the fellow who's interested to, representing his community, unless I'm wrong. And then also based on the discussions last time at the Fire Commission, perhaps we were going to expand the study. So I'm just trying to understand how this plays a role.
Again, a little bit of a timing issue. So the Fire Commission was a little bit out of lockstep in the sense of this particular agenda and budget proposal. And so those minutes are not coming until November 13th. And so there's some recommendations in there for consideration of adoption at the committee and for the board. And so there is some further instructions or information in there that I think will illuminate this particular budget proposal.
Thank you. And again, this isn't so much about the nitty-gritty of what's on the line, but knowing whether we want to see something representing this coming forward or not. Because even though the Fire Commission's coming forward, it might be that we decide absolutely not this year and torpedo it before those recommendations even come forward, if we wanted to start a fight. Director Lee, you're next, and then Director McMahon, and then Director Inkster.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at the item number 48. It's a Pender Harbor Transfer Station scale replacement. Just a little, I'm looking for clarification. I was under the impression that replacing that was part of phase 2 of the transfer station site improvements. So is that correct, or is this pulled out from that and just to get her done early?
GM Rosenboom.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. As you might remember, in 2024, we had a critical asset failure of our scale at Shishot landfill, and at that time, we also had a condition assessment completed on this scale and in Pender. And at that time, it was confirmed that it also was past its end-of-life date and needed to be replaced sooner or later to prevent a similar situation from happening as Shishot. And that was after the Pender Harbor Transfer Station upgrade project was initiated, so it was out of scope of that project. Thank you.
Follow up, or?
No, but it's a different question, but almost the same.
Well, if it's almost the same, go ahead, Director Lee.
Okay, 49, in-house Pender Harbor Transfer Station site operations. What would that actually be? Would that be like getting an excavator and wandering around and crunching stuff up? And the second person that we have there already would be doing that now? Is that kind of what we're looking at?
You looking for, to just better understand the scope of what that budget proposal's encompassing?
Yes.
Thank you. GM Rosenboom.
Thank you, and thanks to the director for the lively description of the activities that are happening at the transfer station. So yes, this would require, part of this budget proposal would be to fund some of the capital investments to bring the service in-house, and there would be long-term financial savings resulting from that, and they would be presented in a separate report with the budget proposal as round one, if the board decides to have it come forward there. Thank you.
Thank you. So sounds good for the long term, but there's more to come. Director McMahon and then Director Inkster, and then I think it'll be just about time to break for a lunch break. So Director McMahon?
Yeah, I'm looking at 47, the community GHG inventory. We've done a corporate GHG inventory. The community inventory is inventorying things that we have no control over. So I'm just wondering why we're doing that.
Thank you. GM Hall?
Thank you. So SCRD is a signatory to the Climate Charter. We have routinely done this as an input for planning. And while it is true we don't control many sources of emissions, we do, through our service areas, have an opportunity to influence them. Thank you.
Follow-up, Director McMahon, are you okay for the moment? I'll go to Director Inkster.
Should I filibuster, Chair? Everyone's hungry. Just a clarification on an earlier question that Director Gabius asked about the farm issue. Is that not a grant? Just enlighten me on that. I was a little confused. It's a grant, so why would we?
There's a potential change in scope here and
Okay.
funding, and the whole thing is
Up in
sort
the air?
of being revisited,
Up
which
in
is
the air?
why more to come.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, thanks.
okay. No filibuster, thank you, Director Inkster. I'm proposing that we take a break. We will, Director McMahon?
There's only 4 items on page 156. We could maybe knock one more page off.
Well, I wasn't sure, Director McMahon, if you had anything you wanted to pull from from page 155. You looked contemplative, but
No.
if directors are happy with page 155 as is, then we'll move on to page 156. As Director McMahon highlighted, there's only 4 items on that page, so it's a short page. Director Bax?
How bad is the carpet? It's old.
CAO?
Yeah, this is one that internally has been deferred for 2 years, and it's now becoming something that our joint health and safety committee is identifying. In some areas, it's perfectly fine. I think this is a matter of opinion, because your version of okay carpet is someone's version of dilapidated. So, I mean, there is some subjectivity to it, but the other thing is we've also tried to see whether or not we could phase this particular one, and it's challenging based on stock and resourcing and whatnot. So it's a little bit of a challenge. I also want to remind that, like our community recreation facilities, this facility is over 20 years old, and so this carpet doesn't owe us anything.
Thank you. And that sort of tied into my question, thank you, CAO, about whether it was possible to do, like, if the majority of the problems are in one wing of the building, could we just do the one wing? But what I'm hearing is it's maybe, but likely not a cost savings to be had over the phasing of the project. Director Bax, did you have a follow-up, or you something else? Okay. Director Lee?
Gee, I don't know what's wrong with the carpet. It's not orange, it's not shag, and I got kind of used to the tape on the floor here.
Director Stanford?
Having been an office manager for a large office place, carpet was the thing that got deferred all the time until somebody broke their kneecap on a snag. And then it got replaced real fast. So I'm more interested in the sort of principal question is, what happens with the old carpet? And maybe that is something that can come with a report later.
Thank you. I don't think you're going to get an answer to that question right now unless staff more vaguely and generally, because I'm sure this isn't the only facility that's ever had a carpet replaced in it. Yeah, but that information can come later for sure. Directors, any other discussion about page 156? If not, it's 12:30. I'm going to suggest we take a break until 1 o'clock. Yeah, and we'll resume at 1 o'clock.
piece for the moment. Or else.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Any other discussion for your support? Yeah, and that motion is carried. Thank you. I don't think there's anything further. Director McMahon and I had been talking about something, but maybe it'll come at board when we adopt these recommendations. So with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from online? There's nobody online. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the next meeting.